The Giants defeat the Washington football team in dramatic fashion, preventing a 2-point conversion, Bob, with under a minute to go in the fourth quarter to get Joe Judge's first ever win as head coach of the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, they took care of business as far as being able to get the stop when they had to, and then Logan Ryan, who got beat for what could have been the game-tying or game-winning touchdown, recovers the onside kick. And, you don't make any apologies for winning in the National Football League. You take the win and you roll from there.
Yeah, no question about it. And we talked about it during the break of the 2-minute warning that if Washington went down there and scored the touchdown, Ron Rivera might go for it, and he did.
Yeah, and the Giants were ready for it. Joe Judge mentioned in his post-game press conference, Ron Rivera's going for it on fourth downs. He knows that he's got a weak football team as well. So if you have a chance to win it, you got momentum going, you just scored the touchdown, you give it a roll and you see what you can do. And look, the Giants did enough to get their first win. They've beaten Washington 4 in a row, but they still have a long ways to go as far as being able to beat better teams with the way they played on Sunday.
Yeah, and we'll get to the stuff they have to correct it in a moment. How do you think of the way Joe Judge spoke about the win in his post-game press conference? To me, it was very Tom Coughlin-y, where everything was about the players. Yeah, it was great for me. I thought about it afterwards, but I was more concerned with being happy for the players that their hard work finally paid off.
Yeah, and I mean, he's a Bill Belichick guy, too, and Belichick never brings anything toward himself, like milestones or whatever. He just shrugs it off, and he congratulates the players. And look, these guys have given everything that they could possibly give. They held training camp here in MetLife Stadium. It was an awkward situation. They've made the best of it. It's a very young team. There's a lot of new parts on this team. And I think he was very happy. And it helps him and his staff coaching-wise because now you have something from positive reinforcement to deal with as well coming off a win.
Yeah, and a couple of those new pieces made big plays. Kyler Fackrell and Tay Crowder combining on the strip sack, fumble recovery return for a touchdown to win the game. And the linebackers are starting to make some plays, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, Blake Martinez, 14 more tackles. Tay Crowder, who's definitely an upgrade over Devontae Downs. He had 10 tackles in the football game. But even Judge in his post-game press conference talking about the fumble recovery, when you talk about attention to detail, the one thing he chastised Tay Crowder was he didn't bend his knees enough to be able to get the ball more cleanly. And it's little details like that Joe Judge is obsessed with. And I think, and no blocking in the back on the return. We've seen now the Giants have 2 long returns for scores in back-to-back weeks. How many times do you see defensive players getting called for an illegal block on the back on a return? 2 so far. Clean, and that's something that he talks about all the time.
Yeah, and the Giants win the turnover battle for the first time, Bob, and we'll talk about the one turnover they did have. But the Giants defense, look, they don't have a bunch of superstars. They're not shutting other defenses down, but they are making some big plays here or there that have turned into defensive scores on consecutive weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, the Bradbury interception set up a short field for the Giants, which was good. And then obviously the Fackrell play. Look, they're opportunistic. They still don't have the great eraser, right? They got pressure on the quarterback in this game against Washington. They don't have a guy that can close the game out, though, that you got a double team and is still going to beat a double team and get the sack when you need to close the game out. But I think they play opportunistically. And, I think the addition of a guy like Logan Ryan, even though Carl Banks said before the pass play, you got to watch for the double move here because they're running all these crosses. And you just don't expect Logan Ryan to get beat on a play, and that's exactly what they ran, a double move on him.
Yeah, and I guess let's talk about some of the stuff that has to get better then, Bob. They did force that fumble, get the touchdown on what looked like could have been Washington's final drive of the game. They get the ball back, and then the defense could not get that stop when they needed it again.
Should have never come down to this, John. The Giants, there's 3 pressure points in this game. And the Giants let go of the rope on all 3 of them. Late in the first half, they've got the lead. They get a stop on a 4th and 10. They force a punt. Leonard Williams runs into the punter. So now you know that Ron Rivera may go for it, which he does. Leonard Williams loses a little contain, nearly has the sack. The coverage breaks down, and you allow Kyle Allen to complete a 4th and 5 pass play. End result, Washington goes in and they score. So now you get the ball to start the third. You got a good drive going. You're in plus territory. You have a 3rd and 1. And it was blocked up enough so that Devontae Freeman had a chance to get the first down. But Andrew Thomas, who didn't start the game but was in at this point, completely whiffs on Sweat, and Sweat from the backside hits Freeman, and, the Giants can't convert it. You have to punt. That's number 2. Number 3, your second possession of the third quarter, you drive it down the field. You got a 1st and goal at the 7. Caden Smith doesn't do a good job blocking Chase Young, but Daniel Jones has got to feel that and park that thing in the stands. Instead, Fuller gets the interception. And we all agree, and NFL officiating said there wasn't enough to overturn it. Certainly looked like there was enough to see that the point of the right elbow came down out of bounds, and that's where the pellets in the white boundary came up. But they let the interception stand. But let's go back to Daniel Jones on that play. He's got to be better with the football there. Caden Smith's got to do a better job of containing Chase Young. But more importantly, Jones has to just throw that thing in the stands. Those 3 things, the Giants cannot do that because they got away with it against Washington. They won't get away with it against Philadelphia or any of their other opponents not named Washington moving forward.
Yeah, no question about it. And you mentioned Andrew Thomas did not get the start in this game. Didn't start the first half. Matt Peart did. Matt Peart then was out there in the beginning of the third quarter as well. And Joe Judge saying in the postgame press conference, Bob, that he violated team rules, nothing malicious, didn't do anything on purpose. But if you make a mistake, there are going to be consequences.
Yeah, it sounds like he was late or something, and that's just not to be tolerated. And again, whether it's your star player, your first-round draft pick, in order to send a message to the rest of the squad, if you have rules, you can't bend the rules. I remember a game, I think it was in 2012. I think the Giants were playing the Eagles. Or no, it was Washington. It was. I don't remember. It was an important game for the Giants. Maybe it was even the Cowboys. I just hit the whole division. And if you remember, Akeem Nicks was coming off an injury, and he had missed or was late for a bunch of treatments that week. And the Giants, Tom Coughlin, in conjunction with then general manager Jerry Reese, they didn't play Akeem Nicks in the game. And it wound up costing the Giants because they had a 3rd and 7 in front of their bench that they needed to complete to seal the game. And it would have been a play for Akeem Nicks. He wasn't in the game, went incomplete. The other team came down and scored. It wound up costing the Giants a chance to win the division in 2012. But you can't buckle if you have rules. You got to keep them.
Giant fans get a New York Giants checking account from Investors Bank with a Giants branded debit card, security features, and discounts at the Giants online shop. You earn up to $250 when you open an account at investorsbank.com/Giants, member FDIC. You mentioned Akeem Nicks. Darius Slayton's cementing himself, Bob, as the Giants' most explosive and best receiver option, only consistent receiver option if you want to go there. Another big play for him over the top, showing off his speed.
Yeah, I mean, he had a 23-yard touchdown catch on a 3rd and 6. Jones has thrown 3 touchdown passes this year, and all have gone to Slayton, which I think is a little bit of a knock on the rest of the guys. Now, they've been using a cast of characters along with Golden Tate. Tate, I don't know, he had an important catch for the Giants on that drive in which Jones eventually threw the interception, but he's got to be more of a factor. The Giants miss Sterling Shepard. I mean, Shepard is not this sexy kind of big play receiver for the most part.
But he gets open.
He gets open. He understands, spaces within zones and all that other stuff, and he makes plays for you. He goes over the middle, makes catches. They need him to open some things up. And the Evan Ingram enigma continues. I mean, the very first play of the game, he had a 21-yard catch. He was invisible. I don't know what Washington did to take him away. I'm not looking at the film. I don't know about the routes that they're running, but all I know is this. Jason Garrett, when he was the offensive coordinator in Dallas, got the ball to the tight ends because whether it was Gavin Escobar or Blake Jarwin or all these other guys that were behind a guy like Jason Witten always seemed to make plays. So it's not like the offensive coordinator doesn't know how to do it. I'm not really sure what's going on here.
Now, some fans have been critical of Jason Garrett, but Bob, I thought for the second straight week he had a pretty good game plan. How many times did we even see, given the opportunity to pin their ears back and get after Daniel Jones? You ran it often on for early downs, a lot of play action, a lot of rollouts, and for the most part, they didn't put the quarterback in danger with the way he game planned this game.
No, I mean, I thought the Rams game, he called a good game. I thought that the Dallas game, he called a really good game. And I thought he called a good game this week. If you don't protect and you don't run the ball effectively enough, I mean, look, they had design runs for Daniel Jones. That's the only way to get a running game going. This offensive line is not playing like they need to play. It's not as good as it was billed. They're not getting the performance out of them. They can't line up and just blow people off the ball. And until that gets fixed, your offensive coordinator is going to be calling games with hands tied behind his back, and you got to try more creative things. We saw a double reverse that Washington wasn't fooled on. They've tried a couple other different things just to try to create some sort of spacing. They're even when they spread Washington out defensively with 4 wides in the game trying to run the ball on the Freeman play, if Andrew Thomas or somebody else chooses to not block somebody, it's not going to work. And I'm not really, Jason Garrett's not the Giants' problem right now. The offensive line and the tight ends have to do a better job blocking.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way, final question, to look ahead to Philadelphia here, Bob. Doesn't it get easier? You talk about the Redskins pass rush, they're great. You know what pass rush is better statistically this year? The Eagles. They throw a million guys at you. Jim Schwartz knows how to get after the quarterback. The Giants do not have a great history on Thursday night or primetime at all against Philadelphia. That's going to be a test down there with fans in the stands on Thursday night down in Philly.
The Giants haven't beaten Philadelphia in forever. I mean, they've lost 20 of their last 24 against Philadelphia. Think about that. They play twice a year. I mean, that's a 12-year sample. They've lost 20 times in 12 years, I think going all the way back to the postseason game at Giant Stadium. I mean, it has become a house of horrors for them. I mean, even last year, they lost in overtime there. They actually played well there, and they lost in overtime. Ertz scored in the final minute to tie the game on a 2-yarder, and then they ran the same exact play in overtime to beat them. So the Giants are going to have to play better than they played today. They're going to listen. Carson Wentz gives you an opportunity to take the football away. When he does, you better take it away. Create short fields, and the Giants have to figure out something with this red zone offense. And to me, that starts with the quarterback, because you can't have 3 red zone interceptions through 6 games of your season.
Yeah, one of the worst red zone teams in the league in terms of scoring touchdowns. And the Eagles' offensive line's a mess, too. Giants pass rush maybe might have an opportunity to get something done next week. Bob, we appreciate it. We'll see you on Thursday night.